We are going to start the
I'm not sure that's
meeting.
going to work.
I'm sure it will, yeah.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome, everyone in the audience. This is the Grand Traverse County Resource Management Administration Committee meeting. Today is Wednesday, September 10th. It's approximately 6 p.m. We will call the meeting to order. Just a note, due to my foot injury, I am located over on this side, so I can kind of have it hang it to the side rather than its usual chairman's spot over the other side. So we'll start the meeting with the opening Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Maxwell. If you could stand, please.
And if everyone except Commissioner Inman would rise, you can stand on one foot.
I guess do we do the prayer first? Or?
No.
Just the pledge, okay.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. We now move on to the roll call attendance, please.
Lathrop,
I'm here.
Lemkool,
Here.
Maxbauer,
Here.
Rennie,
Here.
Thomas.
Yep.
Wheelock,
Yes, ma'am.
Inman.
Here. Next item is the approval of the April 13th regular minutes of the RMA Committee.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the April 13th minutes as provided.
Second.
All right, moved by Commissioner Wheelock, seconded by Commissioner Rennie to approve the August 13th, 014 minutes. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Pass? Opposed? Passes. Okay, we're going to move on now to item 4, which is the first public comment. And if the clerk could read the guidelines, please, for those here.
Any person shall be permitted to address a meeting of the Board of Commissioners which is required to be open to the public under the provision of the Michigan Open Meetings Act. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following board rules and procedures. Any person wishing to address the board shall state his or her name and address. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding time needed to answer commissioners' questions, if any. The chairperson shall control the amount of time each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes. The chairperson may, at his or her discretion, extend the amount of time any person is allowed to speak. Public comment will be solicited during the 2 public comment periods noted in Rule 5.4 Orders of Business. However, public comment will generally be received at any time during the meeting regarding a specific topic currently under discussion by the board. Members of the public wishing to comment should raise their hand or pass a note to the clerk in order to be recognized and shall not address the board until called upon by the chairperson.
Okay, you've heard the general guidelines for public comment. Does any member of the public wish to speak at this time? Again, it's our protocol. If there's an item later in the agenda, we would be happy to accommodate your comment at that time. So, anyone for the first public comment? Okay, seeing none, we will close public comment, and we will move on to item 5, which is the approval of our agenda for this evening. Is there any additions? Yes.
Wendy Truda, our health officer, would like to update the board on the medical examiner
Okay,
situation.
So we'll put that under new business. Wendy? Okay, anything else? Yes.
I had a question, Mr. Chairman. We have some certificate in there from MMRMA. I don't see it on the agenda. So is that added, or what is that about? Page 23.
I don't have that. Dave, do you have that certificate?
That's a certificate of coverage
Yeah, that's the one.
concerning, what's it for?
Page 23.
It's page 23.
No.
I don't know why it's in the packet. but-
It is a certificate of coverage.
This
It's
was
an exhibit.
in regards to the easement issue.
Yeah.
They were requiring a copy of our insurance
Oh, is that what part
document.
of that?
Okay,
Okay.
gotcha.
Okay.
All right,
Thanks.
good question. Thank you. Any other changes to the agenda? And we need a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of Wendy's report.
So move.
Moved by Commissioner Rennie, seconded by Commissioner Thomas, to approve the agenda as amended.
Excuse me, Dave.
Yes?
I was just going to say there will be a closed session tonight.
Okay. We'll note that there will be a closed session as well. Okay, all in favor of the amended agenda? Aye. Opposed? Passes. We have an agenda. Moving on to item 6, the consent calendar. If the clerk could read that, please.
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted, receive and file, or approval, is approved by a single committee action adopting the consent calendar. All information identified on the consent calendar can be viewed in its entirety at www.grandtraverse.org. A, receive and file. 1, Resource Recovery Manager's Report. B, approval. 1, District Court Mental Health Grant. 2, appointments to the Veterans Affairs Administrative Board.
Okay, you have heard the consent calendar. Does any member of the public wish to pull an item off the consent calendar for further discussion? Seeing none, we will now go to the Board of Commissioners. Does any commissioner have an item they wish pulled from the consent calendar? Commissioner Maxbauer.
The Veterans Board appointment, please.
That's 2, that's B2. Maxbauer. Anyone else? Yes, Commissioner
I
Rowley.
don't know if I should pull it or not. I don't see a Recycle Smart rep here, but I had a question on this illegal dumping entry on their monthly report. It has to do with a countywide cleanup September 27th in conjunction with the DNR Resource Recovery and Volunteers. Does anyone know anything about that?
I can give you a little history. Grand Traverse County has come out on a number of cases in the past being listed with the dump sites by the DEQ, and a group of staff and volunteers have went out and tried to locate those sites and clean them up on a volunteer basis at least once a year. So I'm assuming that's the scheduled date. I did not make the last Resource Recovery Council meeting, so I can't confirm that, but I'm sure that's what it's all about, is that the DEQ publishes annually a list of, designated dump sites from past history. Sometimes we can't find them, sometimes we can. Sometimes it's a cushion laying in the woods in Hoosier Valley, and sometimes it's two truckloads.
Commissioner Rennie, you want to pull that item for further discussion?
We could. I can just tell you quickly, I found a couple of illegal ones around my house, I didn't know if we promote this, we advertise this, what are we doing to get people to
What?
commit to doing this?
Why don't we pull it off?
Countywide,
Why don't we pull that off the consent calendar and have a discussion on it? Is that okay, Commissioner Rennie? We'll pull it off. Okay. Commissioner Lemko.
Yeah, I thought we had approved the senior center proclamation last week. Yeah, we did. So I'm just concerned, I don't know why it's back on here, because I know we made it for immediate approval. We didn't?
No, it's not on.
I don't see it on.
It's not on the agenda.
Are you on the right agenda?
Oh, I may not be on the right agenda. It looks so weird.
That would explain why.
Technology, you know?
Oh, yeah.
They all those look the same, don't they? RMNA.
Does everybody-
Yes, we did.
Oh,
Does everybody have the September 10th agenda? All right. Okay, any other commissioner comments on the consent calendar? All right, we need a motion to approve the consent calendar with the exception of item 1 and receive and file and recovery manager report, resource recovery manager report. We're going to hold on that. We're going to hold on the appointments Veterans Board, so all you have to do is approve the district court mental health grant. Motion on that?
I make a motion that we approve the consent calendar with the exception of Veterans Board and then
The resource recovery manager.
Resource Recovery.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a
Which
second?
isn't on there, we're just talking about it, right? It isn't even on there.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it. Second?
Support.
Okay. All right, moved by Commissioner Lathrop, seconded by Commissioner Rennie to approve the consent calendar with the exception of the Resource Recovery Manager's report and the appointment of Veterans Affairs. Roll call vote, please.
Lemkool,
yep.
Maxbauer,
Yes.
Rennie,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yep.
Wheelock,
Yes, ma'am.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Inman.
Yes, that motion passes. We now move on to special orders of business. I have none on the calendar for tonight. So, is that correct? So we will move on to the items removed from the consent calendar. And we will move now to receive and file Resource Recovery Manager's Report. Commissioner Rennie, you have the floor. Did you want to ask staff to look into this further?
We could do that. I just want to know what we're doing. I think it's a great thing that they do.
Okay.
I think if more people knew about it, we'd get more of them cleaned up. They wouldn't get lost in the shuffle. I know a lot of them have been identified for years and have not been addressed.
Okay.
I think Sonny gave us a pretty good idea what that's all about.
All right.
He may have something further to add, I don't know.
Yeah, what we'll do is I'll talk to Susie and make sure that before we meet next week, we'll still have time before the 27th that she can give us an outline of at least a number of sites that we've identified and we'll be working on cleaning up. Okay?
Appreciate that.
Okay, anything else on that item? Okay, we need a motion to receive and file that item.
So moved.
All right, moved by Commissioner Wheelock, seconded by Commissioner Rennie, to receive and file the Resource Recovery Manager's Report. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes. Okay, we now move on to the appointments to the Veterans Affairs Administrative Board. Commissioner Max Bauer.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thought it is necessary to mention the 4 outstanding candidates that we had sitting in front of us, wanting to be on the Veterans Board and serve their fellow veterans. It was an extremely tough choice, but to tell you that the quality of the gentlemen that we interviewed, when we were done, they came out into the hall and shook my hand, and the 3 that weren't chosen said, "You made an outstanding choice." And to me, that just speaks volumes of the guys that we interviewed. I'm only sorry we didn't have 3 other spots. So with that, I would move to appoint Laverne Broughton to serve on the Veterans Affairs Administrative Board, effective immediately.
I'll support that.
All right, moved by Commissioner Max Bauer, seconded by Commissioner Lemkool to approve the appointment. And you want this as an immediate action?
Yes.
Okay. All right, the second agree with that? Okay. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll need a roll call vote for immediate approval.
Max Bauer,
Yes.
Rennie,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yep.
Wheelock,
Yes, ma'am.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Lemkool,
Yep.
Inman.
Yes. Motion passes. Okay, that takes care of items removed from the consent calendar. We move on now to item 9, department action items. The Road Commission, we have your monthly report. Come on up. Welcome.
Good evening. Jim Cook, Grand Traverse County Road Commission. Just a quick update. Our emergency road repairs are up between $500,000 and $600,000 now. That's a record for us, for sure. But hopefully, with all this rain, we haven't had any major washouts since all of this rain, so hopefully we're catching up. As far as project updates, we've basically completed 60 miles of road projects this year. All of our seal coat projects are done. The only thing remaining is the striping, and so hopefully the weather will hold out so we can get those striped. As far as township projects, we are working on a design project with the village of Paradise Township for Kingsley Road. And then we're also going to be doing a gravel road project in Blair Township, which is East Mill Road. We have to finish that one up. As far as the millage-funded projects, we have Zimmerman Road, which is supposed to start construction, actually the road construction, next week. The weather hasn't been too good to the guys putting in the water main, and so I expect we may be a week or so behind on that, but hopefully, again, the weather will hold out, and we'll get that completed before winter. And Supply Road, they're finishing up ditching and tree cutting this week and beginning of next week, but by Wednesday, as long as the weather holds out, they'll be paving all of Supply Road, and that'll be done. It's about a 3 or 4 day project to get it all paved, so when they get done, that'll look like a brand new road. It'll be paved and then striped right after that. Our staff is working on punch lists on all of the projects, just kind of finalizing all the punch list items, anything that's out there that needs to be finished. We talked about Lautner Road, I think, last month, and again, that we're finalizing the details, and that'll be from M72 basically south to the railroad tracks will be completely reconstructed in 2015. And then we're working on a potential project from the railroad tracks to Bunker Hill and potentially Bunker Hill as well in 2016. And then Lafreniere Road, of course, again, thanks very much for this joint project that we're going to be doing in 2015. I just submitted all the paperwork to accept the funds, and they've since confirmed that we are getting the funds, $1.1 million, through the PRIP program to do that project. So that's great news for us. And then I think the only thing left was, our board did approve a new, basically an amendment to our existing FOIA policy, and basically what it really concerns is the use of electronic data and how we preserve those records for FOIA requests. And then our board did pass a resolution with the state of Michigan to hurry up and do something as far as permanent funding for road construction or our road maintenance. And actually every road commission in the state has done that. So, and then I think Commissioner McKellar wanted to talk about our board and our staff are working on some changes with our accounting software and things like that.
Good evening. Well,
Introduce yourself.
Mark McKellar, Chair of the Grand Rapids County Road Commission. Thank you. One of the last things that we actually have to complete in the process of reorganization and operational efficiencies, we've pretty much got everything taken care of, is now our finance area. It's kind of like our core engine of our organization is how do we track all our employees and our equipment and our revenue and our expenditures and everything. And we're using a software that the majority of road commissions use in the state of Michigan. It's got some pitfalls and it's got some benefits. There's some things on it we haven't turned on. We're working with, we're gonna have a task force made up of our board, some of our board, and as well as our executive team and management. And some of the folks are going to be visiting other counties to see how they perfected it. Where we're going with this is that we want monthly dashboards. In the past, we have not been able to get out our accounts closed out for as much as 3 months in arrear. And when you're running blindly like that, you just can't do it. So what we've asked is our finance team to close out their month just about as fast as they can. I know some commissions that are doing it for 7 days after the month closes, not 3 months. So we're addressing that, and we potentially will either be enhancing the existing software platform we have. If not, we will be rolling over to a completely new system. It's going to give us greater operational efficiency. So what we're working on is dashboards, and they may be unique because other road commissions have different things we don't know. We'll be working with a consultant out of the Raymond Group, which is our auditor, our CPAs, to provide meaningful dashboards, key factors, or matrix for every single month. So we're looking at trend lines up and down and know where they're at, ratios, and so on. This is going to be required by the state of Michigan, I believe, later in 2015 anyways. We want to get ahead of the curve, and if we can break everything we're using and rebuild it into an image, into a system that we want, that's what we're going to do. So there'll be some significant changes, and we're hoping that we'll be able to make faster decisions from a budgetary standpoint. And we are starting our budget process later this month, which is 2 months sooner than we generally do. So if you have any questions, we can answer them. If not, I'll just get off and let the meeting go on.
Anything for Mark? Commissioner Wheelock.
Well, Mark, Jim, whatever. Wonder if rumors are true that we're going to see roundabouts on M72 and South Lautner Road?
Not a rumor.
Well, the state's already
I hope they're better designed than the one at Mesik.
Yeah. What I understand is there's going to be two. There's going to be one at the entrance, correct me if I'm wrong, one at the entrance of the development, and then one on Lautner. And that's on the 72, that's MDOT, prescribed by MDOT. Designed and responsible MDOT.
Large enough to keep a fire truck and an ambulance in the middle, I hope.
I can't answer that question, Commissioner. We'll have to wait and see, but yeah.
Okay, anything else? All right, thank you. Thanks for coming. All right. we'll
Motion
move
to
on.
receive and file the report. Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. And we will now move on to facilities management and finance. We have the lawn care services, page 10.
Good evening, Danny Brown, the Director of Facilities.
Okay.
I'll give you a little history here as to how we got to these numbers. I think you asked me sometime in March to pull some numbers together.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was snow on the ground
Yes.
until late April. There was no way to even see what we know. And I couldn't take anybody around to show them. So we decided to use, Northern Green Lawn for our fertilizer, and they know every inch of the lawns. So we asked them, first of all, would they be willing to even do this for us? And they said that they would, because they do that service as well. And like I said, they walked the area, so they knew it. They knew the square footage. So that's how we arrived at these numbers. And then we took a lot of time trying to get our own numbers together. And these numbers include, or do not include on our side, the fuel cost. There's no way that I can break it down. I mean, when we put fuel out of our tank, we can't measure it. If we had a meter on it, we probably could to see how much fuel that the equipment is using, but we don't. So that's the only missing element here. And not all buildings are on this list because they don't do them. So that's how we arrived at the numbers.
So are you saying, based on this information, that it costs less to have Grand Traverse County provide this lawn care service than, for example, having Northern Green Lawn do it? Is that what
Yes.
this is saying?
Mm-hmm.
However, as Danny has mentioned, and Danny and I worked on this together, our costs do not include, the
Like
cost.
benefits and health care?
No, our personnel cost that's on the summary that's on page 11, and you're 11 or
Maybe 12, wouldn't it?
12 is fully, that's the $34.07 an hour includes all of our wages and benefit costs. That's a fully loaded cost, but it does not include, as Danny mentioned, the cost of the gasoline or the supplies or even the equipment cost that would be spread over, the useful life. We're very clear in our write-up. That's stated that the proposal from Northern is all-inclusive. That's their cost.
Okay.
Our cost, and Danny, this is not Danny's fault, our accounting system, the lawn care services that are provided by your facilities management department are part of everything they do. It's almost impossible to go in and estimate or break out those costs because we're simply not doing that. And we're being very open and upfront with that. I don't know how you would do that. And we're even stating that our cost is in all likelihood greater than the cost of having a contractor come in and do it. But in our opinion, and this may be more mine than Danny's, is that I feel the benefits of having our own personnel, our grounds maintenance workers do this service along with everything else that they do. And recently they've been asked to take on additional responsibilities at the Twin Lakes camp. So, and our personnel costs includes the allocation for the unfunded, pension cost. We're allocating that cost to these workers as well. So it's really...
We still have to pay that cost if we get rid of the service.
And that's the final statement that we're making. That cost is not eliminated. It's still a cost we have. So we didn't want to delay bringing this to you any longer. We were asked to do this. And I think if I were in Danny's position, I'd actually make a statement. I think I would be, and I'm not the facilities management director, but I would probably entertain contracting out for lawn care. But what I would ask is I would want to retain that personnel to do everything else that you've asked me to do. So would there really be a savings if we did it? I'm of the opinion that, yes, there could be a savings, but I think you need that personnel to do, all of the grounds maintenance work that they're currently doing.
Okay, Commissioner Lemko.
How many ground maintenance workers do you have?
4.
So when you put down the grounds maintenance workers, you've got one for each one of these things, but the total is 4 workers.
Correct.
So if you actually multiplied that 4 workers times their salary, it's far greater than this $10,000.
That's not a fair way of looking at it, though, because what Danny has done here on page 12 is summarize the time that they spend doing just the lawn care services.
Okay.
And that equates to about a .25 FTE. And granted, we're not trying to, this is just comparing our personnel costs with their costs. We're lower, but when you factor in the other costs, there's no doubt in my mind that we would be greater than, and if we actually went out to bid on this, you may have another contractor that would come in at a lower cost than Northern Green Lawn. So I guess I remember what Commissioner Thomas said when we discussed this more than once at a few budget hearings, that you have a facilities management department that mows and takes care of our lawns for us. They do more than just lawn care, and that's the piece of this that's extremely difficult to extract from the 4 grounds maintenance workers who have supervision as well. Danny directs what they do. It's really hard to come up with comparing our costs with, a true contract cost. And when you factor in all of those things that the ground maintenance workers do for us and the fact that they have very good knowledge of our facilities, today when it was raining, they were directed to do other work. And,
That's correct.
And they're always doing something, and they're not just spending their time mowing the lawn. So.
Well, the other thing is that, though this is only for the summertime, the wintertime, they're also doing snow and everything else.
They plow.
And they plow and everything else. So
Yes.
it would be interesting to see, not so much a breakdown as to how much it costs each individual thing, but how are they allocating their time for the year for lawns, how much is on for snow and how much is for maintenance. And so that make it really simple to break it down that way rather than trying to do this. And then you can determine whether or not we like to have, that really tells us a full picture of what you really got. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
So I'd rather see that. I see what you're doing here, and I understand, but I think Dean makes a good point, that even if you bid this out, you're still going to need these people.
That's correct.
You're not going to cut any staff members,
No.
but what it would be nice is to be able to break it out. And I think it's also important to know that as part of this, you got the Civic Center, and the Civic Center really is part of Parks and Recreation, more than all the other buildings. So, that could be part of that Park and Recreation budget. How much is snow plowing, how much is maintenance, and how much is lawn maintenance for the Parks and Recreation Department, and put that in their budget so that we get a true cost of what it really cost us to operate the Civic Center.
Okay. You want to respond?
I was just going to say that the way we do our time cards, we break down by number what the guys are doing for that day, every day. To extrapolate all of that data would take some time to do because it's not computerized.
Okay. The other, some things that are worth mentioning, I have the grounds maintenance worker job description, and just to give you an idea of the other responsibilities they have, they do perform low voltage electrical and irrigation installations and repairs. They perform general building maintenance and custodial work such as cleaning, of arena and outbuildings, minor construction projects, moving furniture, caulking and painting fields, painting and general repair work. They monitor parking areas during large events. And that's just a few of those other things. I'm sure Danny could probably name off several other. The point is, they do more than just mow the
All right,
lawn.
Commissioner Rennie.
Yeah, getting back to your analysis here, you don't count fuel. I think equipment would be a bigger number than the fuel probably, don't you think? We don't have an idea what that would be. As far as you saying it's close enough that you would rather have it in-house, I like Herb's comment that we should look at the amount of employee time spent on this as well as other services, aggregate that and see if we can do some contracting. Not so much just to get rid of an employee, but to save an employee from that work.
Commissioner Lathrop.
I don't see what the problem would be to get some bids on some pieces of property so we just have some information. We don't have to make a decision on it tonight, but getting bids is harmless. To see, for instance, what's it cost to mow Twin Lakes? To get that bid out. To assume that if we bid out lawn mowing, that we won't be able to therefore reduce more expensive county staff that gets paid time off. I think it's 12 days or something like that. We don't know that. So I think we need more homework. We need to get some bids and get an idea what it costs. We're not comparing apples to apples. Nothing wrong with getting some bids.
All right.
Well, you got a bid for Twin Lakes, you got a $500 bid here for Twin Lakes.
Yeah, all right.
I mean, you already got it. Trying to go out for bids with companies that are extremely busy, just to see whether or not it's going to be feasible, they're not going to be interested. They're not going to give you the time. Or they're not going to be really high because they know they're not going to get it.
All right.
So I think going out for bid, you've got a good enough information here. If you decide that your staff can't handle Twin Lakes, okay, go do Twin Lakes. Do it for $500 a year.
Yeah, we're going to take a look at it for sure.
Yeah, and that's what you need to look at more than you do at the whole picture, I think.
All right, Commissioner Rennie.
I'd just like to get back to that same point Herb made. I think we should be looking at this from the standpoint of the FTEs used for these services to see if we can change that requirement for whether it's snow plowing, lawn maintenance, the other stuff that you do.
Okay.
So I think if we had that breakdown by these time cards as to where people are spending their time, we could better ascertain that.
Commissioner Lathrop.
What is the biggest piece of lawn that we mow?
Civic Center, by far.
We can't get a bid on Civic Center?
You got it.
Where?
It's right there.
What are they saying? I guess I didn't see.
Civic Center is $8,100 to do that
For the summer?
for the summer and $11,000 to do the ball fields. You're talking $20,000 just to be able to do that. That's 1.5 employees?
Mm-hmm.
Just to be able to do
Yep.
that.
Yeah, different equipment.
Mhm.
We have gang mowers.
That's just
that we
one
pull
bid
with the
though,
tractor.
That's just for that part.
But it's just one bid though, from one company, am I
Yeah,
wrong?
but I mean, you're going to get higher bids in this because they're going to go, they're fishing. They're not actually going out for somebody to do the work. Been there, done that.
Commissioner Wheelock, sorry. Yeah, and then we'll go to Administrator Bende.
Well, I can tell you, writing bid packets for a project like this is very, very complicated. And it's going to take a lot of Danny's time and Danny's staff time just to put together a bid packet for it. I know that for a fact. One of the other pieces of this that probably shouldn't weigh in here, but I noticed that 12 of these facilities use inmates. Our courts order every day people to do community service work. If we can't identify something for those people to do, then they're going to sit in jail. We don't have room for that. So one of the components of this is also some of that community service work that's provided by the inmates. If we contract with someone to do that, that community service work is no longer available. So then what do we do? The community service work is mandated by the judges. And if those people, if we cannot identify community service work for them to do, they're going to sit in jail. That's going to cost us money, too.
All right. Dave Benda.
Yeah, the Dean has that job description sitting here, and he read a few things off of it, but there's a lot of miscellaneous duties that these guys do.
Oh, yeah, lots.
A lot. And, if we could get a bid probably on snow plowing, and we can get a bid on, in fact, we do have bids on snow plowing. We do contract out for quite a bit of it. And we could get bids for the lawns. If we were to take the lawns out and contract for that, and spend $13,000, whatever it was, $13,104. If we were to take the mowing right out and trimming and give it to this service, how many staff people could you cut? How many FTEs?
None?
Zero, like not even a half a position?
No. We just got Twin Lakes, in a sense. I mean, that's a big place. It was done by somebody else. It wasn't even in my budget. I mean,
So are you asking for another position to help you
I
with?
didn't say that.
No, you didn't ask for another position, did you?
No,
So you
We
must
think-
have some excess capacity?
no.
I didn't think you were going to say
We-
that.
We just we'll do what we got to do.
We do what we got to do.
That's right.
And we do it as fast as we can, right?
Yes.
And sometimes people get upset because you're not fast enough. right?
And it's more of a learning process than anything else because we haven't done it out there. This only started last Monday, so.
Yeah.
If you take the cost that Northern Green Lawn, and granted, this was a few months ago, that equates to .25 FTEs when I average the total compensation and benefits for the grounds maintenance workers. So the cost, if you incurred that cost to contract out for the properties that are identified here, it would cost us a quarter of an FTE. So in effect, to cover that cost, Danny would lose a quarter of one of his grounds maintenance workers. So,
Commissioner Renning.
I understand what you're saying. It's a quarter of FTE for a seasonal service. If you extrapolate that over 12 months, add in some snow removal and stuff, does that get up to 1 FTE? All the services.
well, we currently,
On a 12-month basis.
as Dave mentioned, we're currently contracting out for the parking lot snow removal, but the guys still shovel the sidewalks. They have the buildings open and available when the customers come in, when the employees come in. We're not contracting that out.
I understand that, but should we analyze that and see what that, in aggregate, if that adds up to an FTE? I understand what we don't want to do, which is have less employees. I understand where you're coming from, but I'm asking you, do these services encompass a full FTE on an annual basis? And you're saying a quarter. I know it's hard to cut people off.
We're overanalyzing this, I think. I don't really know what the true answer to that question is, to tell you the truth. Let me think about it a little bit, and I'll get back to you.
All right. Dick, did you have something? Go ahead,
Well,
Commissioner Thomas.
when you consider everything else these employees do, I think nitpicking over the lawn care is you're not going to save a dime. Myself, that's what I think. You've got 4 guys that do all kinds of things, plus the lawn. Yeah, you might get it done for a few cents cheaper, but I don't see where there's going to be any savings.
Commissioner Maxbauer.
Well, I contend that there is work that is not being done because of the mowing. And, I give Kids Cove as an example. When Paul Johnson was standing there and looked at me and said, we haven't maintained it in the last 7 years, we don't have the manpower and we don't have the time. Now, that tells me that there's a problem. If there's a problem at Kids Cove, there's a problem elsewhere, throughout the county. So I am proposing that we bid out some of this lawn care I'm not suggesting necessarily all of it, but what makes sense. What I look at here, I see, the Garfield Health Service building and the Lafreniere building, the two buildings right there.
Yeah.
Someone could very easily, we could put that out for bid very easily to someone. The buildings are right next to each other. There's not a lot of travel time involved. I'm just suggesting, now, I'm not a professional when it comes to bidding out lawn care, but I'm just suggesting that's one way to do things. I do believe that we need to take a look at bidding some of this out. That's me.
Okay. You have something?
Yeah, Chris, if we had more money to deal with in our budget, I might agree with you, but I don't see us adding more cost to our facilities, because that would add cost. And you're right, we're probably not getting some things done. But on the same token, in a budget crunch as we are at today, I don't see it feasible to be able to do that, because then you're going to have to cut services someplace else in order to add $12,000 to your budget, or $10,000 to your budget. And that's what you're doing if you go to bid it out, or even if you bid out even portions of it. You're going to add that to his budget, and we can't afford it. We're already looking at how do we cut other services, and whether or not, the thing you can say is, okay, we're not going to mow the lawns except every 3 weeks, and we're not going to do them every 2 weeks. We're only going to do the ball diamonds every week, or every other week. That's how you cut services. And so all of a sudden you're dealing with hay fields when you get done. And that's not going to be what the public is, they're going to notice it immediately when you start cutting services. And that's how you save money, is cutting the amount of times that you're doing this stuff. If you go from 24 times to 18 times or to 12 times, you're going to be able to cut services, and you're going to be able to give more time to do those other things. But you're going to feel it quickly.
Okay, Commissioner Maxbauer?
I respectfully disagree, Commissioner Lemkool. We contracted custodial services, and those jobs were not lost to the community. Those jobs still exist, and the carpets are still getting cleaned.
But we eliminated them from us. Danny's Danny's telling us he cannot give up an employee.
He's telling us he does not want to give up an employee.
He's saying he can't.
And he very well may not have to give up an employee. But I'm saying, unless we take a serious look at this, I think there's some savings to be made here, either in employee time or in taxpayer expense.
Commissioner Rennie?
I agree with Commissioner Maxbauer on that. In the private sector, all kinds of things are subcontracted, contracted out for one reason: save money and get the job done better. And I think that we missed some of that at the county level. I think we could do more of that. I agree with Commissioner Maxbauer on that.
Okay, Commissioner Lathrop?
What I don't like about this discussion is we're saying we can't get there from here. That there's no sense bidding it out because. We don't know what it costs, we can't compare it. I know we can make a decision tonight to bid it out, I'm not saying that, but that's one good reason that we should have, how can you do cost savings if you don't know what something costs? That's a good maybe somewhere along the way we should have, I know that our accounting system is mandated by the state, and we have to do it that way. But it might be worth getting a budget so that we know what it costs to provide a service. We don't know. We know how much it costs for a marriage license. And so how can we do cost analysis and cost savings if we don't know what something costs?
Commissioner Lemkool?
Doing it piecemeal is not going to save you any money. If you want to go out and bid it out, bid out the whole facilities department. Bid the whole thing, including lawn, including snow, including maintenance, including everything. There are companies that will come in and be able to do that for you. Is that what you want to do? Yeah, we did that with the custodials. I'm not so sure that we want to do that with this particular department. But if you really want to see your cost savings, bid out the whole thing Don't just do a little bitty piece out of it. It's not going to work. It's not going to save, it's going to cost you money to do that.
Commissioner Rennie?
I think, Herb, you're right on with that. That's what we're trying to say here going forward. We should find out what the whole thing costs. If we can do something with these services, we should do that. You can't look at just lawn. You're dividing employees. You have to look at the services provided in general, which is the entire package. I think you're absolutely right.
Okay, this...
And yeah, I would be in favor of doing that.
All right. So, I guess if we can sum this up, this was brought forward to us because we asked for some information, and it appears as though we're asking for possibly some additional information, especially when it comes to can we save an FTE or not save an FTE, or if we contract out, what the rationale behind keeping the same FTE. And I'm assuming that the rationale is there are other stuff that still needs to be done, even though part of it we're not getting to on a timely basis. So, Dave, do you have a suggestion where we might want to take this from here? Do we want further information coming back from Danny and yourself on this, or do we want to just lay the question out in front of the commission and get thumbs up or thumbs down whether we're going to go through this process or not?
I'm not sure, Danny, I'm not sure what you want bid out. I mean, I think Danny brought in, and Dean has worked on trying to put together cost for doing just the lawns and tried to segregate those costs. I think what you find in the numbers that I think they can break them down further. I think they can give you the gas piece simply by just gauging how many times they fill up, lawnmowers versus other things, and try and figure out how many gallons that might be, and then average it out for the season, and you can come up with a dollar amount for the gas. I think there's ways to come up with closer costs. I do note that Garfield is on here, and that's not going to be something you're going to have to maintain.
That's correct.
There was no bid from Northern Green Lawn, but you did have an allocated cost there. But at any rate, I think you're going to come up with, you can come up with a pretty close number. If you want to do the whole facilities department, it's going to be very hard to define the scope of work, because you've got a list of things that you've done this year. You've got a workflow.
Right.
And every day they get the list of things they've got to get done, and they put it up on the board, and they check them off as they get them, and they put the new ones on there, and some of them take priority, so they jump to the top of the list. Some of them don't jump to the top of the list when they should, and we know which ones those are.
Yes, we do.
And, but in order to bid that out, that's going to be tricky.
Okay. Commissioner Wheelock, you had a chance to talk.
I don't foresee any possible way you bid out facilities maintenance as a whole. There's too much of it. There's too much integral things that these guys do, from lock repair to, boarding up a broken window. There's way too much stuff that goes into that. I do believe you can bid lawn care, and I do believe you can bid snow removal.
I do too.
I don't think there's any question about that. I had this discussion a year ago with the Commission on Aging, and if you remember my discussion about the way they bid it, it was just simply they didn't pay any attention to what they were asking for. I believe you can do it, but in order to do it and make it efficient, you're going to have to bid all of the lawn care. And you need to understand that when you bid mowing, that doesn't include fixing a broken sprinkler head. It doesn't include fixing a lamp post around the track because somebody, hit it with a car that didn't belong out on the track, because it does happen.
And repairing
all of those
tire
issues.
Tracks.
It doesn't include filling in the ruts because somebody got out in the outfield and was doing donuts. Those are all things that don't show up when all you bid is lawn care. But I absolutely believe that you can bid the mowing and you can bid the snow plowing, but don't think that that's going to eliminate all of your ground maintenance people, because you're going to have to still have someone to do that other work. As part of the 2015 budget process, it's probably appropriate to have somebody put together some numbers. And I know it's a load on Danny and his staff to try to put together a bid packet for this. But if I was going to do it in his case, I wouldn't get extremely detailed as far as the other stuff or try to deal with the other stuff. I would simply ask for a price on mowing and a price on plowing and shoveling. And it's going to be, you're probably going to get bids based on a price per trip, because, and then you can specify, as we go down through this list, there were things that were mowed 24 times, but there were other things that were mowed 3 times, so we can do that. But I think you can get bids on a price per trip from multiple vendors that we can use as part of the 2015 budget process. Just because we get bids doesn't mean we have to move forward with that.
Right.
I got a notice this afternoon from a company that I bid a pretty sizable job from this week, that they've decided that the truck just isn't worth putting that kind of money into. So I bid work every day that does not move forward. So it's not a unique experience for any business to bid work that they don't get or the customer never moves forward with.
Hey, Commissioner
So
Rennie.
I believe it's
Yep.
appropriate.
Okay,
Yeah.
Commissioner Rennie.
Dave brings this point up about measuring fuel and all that. I don't think we go to all that minutia to do this. We look at it in terms of a FTE. Assign what FTE, what portion is for these services. If we can save an FTE or something to be used wherever, then you can look at a wage and benefits and say, is this worthwhile or not? We don't have to measure fuel and stuff. We know it's the whole cost.
But then we're missing the cost of the equipment and the gas.
Well, of course, that's another thing that's in our favor if you bid it out, in my opinion.
Oh, my goodness, yes.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, it
equipment
would
is
definitely be
expensive.
cheaper for us
Okay.
to show that.
So if we can look at that, plus the FTE, and use that as the analysis, rather than all adding up all these little numbers, it might be quicker and easier for your facilities guy.
Don't worry about those minute details. Deal about whether or not we could save an FTE.
Exactly.
If we can save an FTE by bidding this out, we're probably money ahead.
All right, what is the pleasure of the board in terms of direction? Do you want the
As far
department to...
as I'm concerned, if you want a recommendation from me,
Yep.
I would ask the facilities director to put out a bid packet for snow removal and mowing at all county facilities for the 2015-16 year.
Okay, is there a second?
I will second it, but I
Okay.
want to discuss it.
All right, second by Commissioner Rennie.
The only-
Discussion. Commissioner Rennie.
I know you have snow and lawn maintenance. I would like Danny to come and tell us if there's any other areas that we could add to that make sense. Over and above those two. If there are none, fine.
Okay. Anything else on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Roll call vote, please.
Rennie?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yep.
Wheelock?
Yes.
Lathrop?
Yes.
Lemkool?
No.
Max Bauer?
Yes.
Inman?
Yes. Okay, motion passes with 1 nay. All right, we now move on to the First Baptist Church easement.
Okay. You've got it in your packet there, and I just want to point out a couple of things about this. We're talking about the parking lot that's west of the Hall of Justice. That parking lot, I don't know if you can see this or not, but I put a line on the map. There's a line that runs right through here. Everything west of that line is owned by the Baptist Church. So therefore, they own 36 parking spaces, 35, excuse me. Parking spaces that this easement is allowing us to use during the course of our business. That would be Monday through Friday. Now, there are an exception in here, and the exception is that once in a while, once in a great while, they'll have a funeral on a Friday. And we have some special signs that are on these barricades that we put out. We try to put them out early because we have a lot of different kinds of people parking in that lot, people that work downtown, actually, other than our employees. But That's really the only exception. They do have to do some repairs to the south sidewalk as it goes down the cliff there to the river. And it's pretty dangerous because on Sundays, the pastor was telling me that they have little children run around in that parking lot. And they're just scared to death that someday one of them's going to run right off that big hill there. So we decided, we talked through it, and we've got some fencing that's just doing nothing. It's just in storage. And we told them if they would get that fixed on their cost, then we would give them the fencing. We're talking about 70 feet of it, 4 feet high. And I don't know if that's in here or not. I think it is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So we're asking the approval to go forward with this.
Commissioner Rennie.
I would make a motion to approve the easement and right of refusal agreement between the county and the First Baptist Church.
Okay.
Support.
Seconded by Commissioner Thomas. Does this require immediate approval? Danny?
It's been expired for about a year now. This is a lease agreement that was in existence for 25
Right.
years.
Probably a week and a half won't matter.
And this continues the lease for 10 years with an option for another 10.
Right.
So, we've been maintaining the same agreement nevertheless in the interim, so I don't think it's an emergency, but
Okay.
Chris Kramer wrote on my packet, immediate approval. Bold letters.
All right.
Capitals.
So if Chris Kramer says it's immediate, by George, we better make it immediate.
Motion maker and second agree with
We
it?
can amend that motion if that's
All
what you
right,
desire.
motion maker and second agree on the immediate approval?
Is there, Dicky seconded, is there a financial consideration that's given to them?
$1.
$1. That's, I just wanted to make.
the $1 is actually for a right of first refusal. If the church were to sell the property, then the county would have the right of first refusal.
All right. This is for immediate approval. Roll call vote, please.
Thomas?
Yep.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Lathrop? Lathrop?
Yes or no?
Oh, me? Oh, yes. I just didn't hear it.
That's okay.
Lemkohl?
Yes.
Max Bauer?
Yes.
Rennie?
Yes.
Inman?
Yes. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. We'll now move on to 9C, Parks and Rec, open position, verbal update. Dave?
Hi.
Self-introduce?
I'm Chris Erickson. I'm the Office Manager and Acting Director of Parks and Recreation.
Okay.
Hello, Commissioners. The County Parks and Recreation Commission had a special meeting last week to discuss the open positions in our department. There are, I call them 2.5 positions, the director's position, the caretaker's position at Twin Lakes, and then the caretaker's wife was a part-time employee with the county. The Parks and Recreation Commission discussed the matter and asked that I make a recommendation on their behalf to you to wait until the new county board is seated in January to decide what to do about the open positions. In the meantime, I've been named as the acting director of Parks and Recreation, and the Parks and Recreation Commission has asked or directed me to explore the possibilities of restructuring our department, and have entrusted facility staff and our staff to execute and develop and execute a plan for staffing Twin Lakes between now and January. And in the meantime, I'm going to report back to our Parks and Rec Commission and whoever else needs to know how that's working, just to keep tabs on it until January.
So that's the recommendation of the Parks and Rec Commission?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Dave, you have any remarks on that before we take action?
I was at the meeting, and that's pretty accurate.
Okay, so do we need action on this board?
Well, as a board, you can take action on this, or you can let that stand. I'm kind of taking direction from both the Parks and Rec Commission on this and the county board. It's a position that I appoint. I can right now choose to appoint it, or, post it and fill it, or I can wait until the first of the year. I guess it's up to this board whether they want me to do that or not. Simply because it's a department head director position. It works directly for the Parks and Recreation Commission. I would tend to defer to what their wishes are right now. It sounds to me like Chris has got a plan in place to manage the department for the next few months, and she's got a plan in place to try and address the issues at Twin Lakes between now and the end of the year until the closing of the park, and we'll see how that goes.
And the park doesn't actually close
Well,
at the end of the year, but it'll be scaled back.
I understand.
With users, yeah.
I think it'd be helpful just to clarify that we would accept the recommendation from the Parks and Rec Commission. Would that be fine?
I'll make the motion to accept the recommendation of the County Parks and Rec Commission.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Maxbauer, seconded by
I'll second it.
Commissioner Lathrop. Discussion? Commissioner Lemko.
Yeah, I think delaying it until the end of the year is probably too late. I think we ought to be delaying it till we do our budgets, and the budgets are going to be determined what we're going to do and how we're going to handle it, because we're going to have that major discussion and how that Parks and Recreation should come to us with their budget so that we can approve that budget, which will then dictate how the hiring will be taken care of. The other thing that was mentioned is that she should hire a part-time ranger to be able to fill in some of those things, and that, you haven't talked about that here. That is additional staffing that's going to need to be in place to take the place of somebody else that we've got gone. And so I think it's, there's more to this than just approving what the Parks and Recreation Department has said, or the board. I think it needs to be brought forward as part of our budget process, but also I think we have to determine whether or not we're going to allow her to be able to hire an additional ranger to pick up the slack of the loss of 2 people in her department.
Yeah, I think that issue can be brought up separately. What do you think?
Well, the fact that we had the
recommendation was you didn't fill either one.
Is that the recommendation?
Yeah.
I can address this, actually. Our rangers are part-time, and we had 4 of them for the summer. One now is hospitalized. He had surgery, and he will be off until probably January. Another one has come into our office to work part-time to take my place because he's got such a wide, he's got so much institutional knowledge and is pretty much a universal worker for us anyway. And we were going to hire another ranger anyway, which we need to do to help fill the gap with this. The season is winding down pretty much. We have rangers out there until the snow flies on the Civic Center property. So if we have 2 rangers on our staff, which is what we normally have anyway, I think we can make it work.
Okay.
And like I said, they're part-time. We also are missing staff, and the director's full pay is not being paid out. We've hired an office coordinator to take my place for now. I was an office manager. Those are different grades. That's what we've decided to do with it for now, and just see how it works.
Okay.
So.
Commissioner Rennie.
Well, the only other thing I was going to say is, listening to the Park and Recreation, they sure have high regards for the work that you're doing, and I think you need to be recognized for the work that you're doing here.
Thank you,
And
Herb.
taking and filling into a really tough spot, and we appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you. I have a lot of good people who help me.
Yeah.
All right.
That's what I say every day, so I'm the lucky one.
All right, Commissioner.
Great.
Commissioner Rennie.
I did attend the special Parks Board session. I appreciate the board doing that. Applaud Chris for what she's doing. I think she should be compensated for the job she's doing, if she's in some kind of position where she's doing more. But I would really like to more address what we seem to have here with parks as a situation with micromanagement by the Parks Board and the Parks Department. And I think a lot of people feel that has been going on and happened. I believe we've had a couple people decide that they would resign, this last director. Very contentious issues. I believe the director before that resigned, is that right? I think it's time to discuss the setup over there, and I think that our chairman could have a lot more say in what's going on over there with respect to that. And I'll be quite honest with you, I think our administrator has let us down a little bit in that if he feels issues should be addressed that aren't being addressed, and that his position is being trampled on a little bit, he should be raising Cain about that. We're at a Parks meeting, we're talking about answering telephones and writing job descriptions by the Parks Board. I thought HR did that. I thought you decided on who would be the Parks Director. that sort of thing. And I would like to see a little more strength from the administrator and our chairperson with respect to trying to get to the root of what is going on over there. We're glossing over all of that tonight. That special Parks Board session we had, by the way, 3 people signed that. I was the only commissioner there other than the board member. Who signed that and then said we need that and then doesn't come? I don't understand that. That lack of participation in that, if we do think we have a problem over there. And we know we have a problem over there. So I'm a little bit disappointed about that.
All right.
And I think we should address some of these other issues and get some feelings from first HR and our administrator as to how he feels this whole thing fits and works together over there. And if there is an excessive amount of micromanagement on the part of this Parks Board, I do not think it's their place. Okay. I think it interferes with the everyday operation of the parks, and I think the public's getting shortchanged. That's what I hear from the public. That's where I'm at with that.
All right. Anyone else have a comment on the motion? Commissioner Wheelock.
Well, I'm pretty frustrated by the results of the Parks Commission's special meeting. The idea that no decision should be made until the new county board is seated. The county board members that are sitting in these chairs are duly elected and responsible to make decisions on behalf of this community until December 31st, 2014. If this issue had come up 6 months ago or 9 months ago, we wouldn't be having any of this discussion. The county administrator would have advertised for the position and hired a Parks and Recreation director. That's his job. He's responsible to keep that department running. And the idea that we're going to delay this for 4, 5, 6 months by the time we get to the end of the year and then we advertise for the position hoping to get qualified candidates to apply, to me is absolutely absurd. It is the responsibility of these county board commissioners to take care of these positions until December 31st of this year. The fact that we may or may not be sitting here 5 months from now is not relevant. We should be making the decisions that are in the best interest of our community. I believe it's irresponsible for us to sit here and say that we're not going to put direction in the Parks Department for 6 months. I believe we should authorize the county administrator to advertise and fill this position as soon as possible.
We got to have someone else, if you don't mind, Commissioner Rennie, if we can get back to you. Commissioner Max Bauer? Yes.
One of the reasons that the Parks Board chose the route they did is, and we did suggest that the job description be rewritten. We did that primarily because the Parks Board, everyone thinks so outstandingly of Christine Erickson. She's been running that department since June, and she's been doing an outstanding job. I believe you would hear that from the public as well as from the board. We, at least myself, I'm going to speak just for myself, I want her to have a shot at being the next park director. And I really do believe that the way she stepped in, I just think she deserves a shot. And for that reason, that's one of the reasons that I did not support and do not support our administrator going out and advertising for a parks director. I've not seen anybody as competent as Christine Erickson in a very, very long time. And please go over to the Civic Center, ask the employees. The employees have come up to me after meetings and said, thank you for Christine Erickson. So I want to give her a shot at being our next director. I also want to take a look at a better link between the Parks Department and facilities. And I had this conversation with Commissioner Lemkool. So oftentimes in the past, the Parks Commission has had no knowledge of what facilities is doing. And it doesn't work well when facilities is managing the buildings in the parks. And maybe putting parks under facilities isn't the best route. And I'm willing to say, okay, that's fine. But what I would like is some type of structured relationship, I don't care if it's a weekly meeting, where, Danny and Christine sit down and tell us as a Parks Board, you know what? The dock out on Power Island is buckled. You need to tell your board. We had no communication prior to Christine Erickson. We've got it now. The employees love her. The customers love her. I want her to have a chance, and I really think that the Parks Board doing what they did was the right thing.
Commissioner Maxwell, one question, then I'll go to Commissioner Rennie. Was the purpose behind delaying a hiring for a parks manager or a position of supervision for parks, whether you call it a manager or whatever, was to give staff an opportunity to evaluate her
And the needs.
and to do the actual analysis of needs before you went out and actually hired someone?
Yes.
That's the purpose behind it?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Commissioner Rennie?
Chris, I agree that the other Chris has done a great job. To fill that position is up to Dave Benda. It's not up to you. That's a fact.
I made a recommendation because I was
You
asked.
can make a recommendation, but the point is, it really is up to the administrator and HR to hire the employee. One of the reasons this delay was put in, I think, was because people were not that confident we could make the best decision with the current board. We're going to have a very new Board of Commissioners after the first year. There will be new members on the Parks Board. This is a very important decision. I would say we should be looking for the director and a suitable candidate, he or her. And I also believe input from that candidate should reflect on, do we want to continue with the Parks Board and so forth? I want someone who's dealt with boards and understands what the relationship is supposed to be. The board's purpose is not to conflict and make the efficiency of the department less. I also hear of morale problems over there. I know some are good, some are bad, but I've heard of it. This has been going on for months, whether you read the newspaper or anything else. We had an issue on the board of directors.
Going on for years.
First of the year where we were going to maybe make a board replacement. It got to be quite contentious. Some things led after that. This is what we're talking about. That's an advisory board. That board should be citizen-driven, should not be occupied by a bunch of elected officials so they can pack the board with who they want to put on there with their undue influence as to who gets on the board. And that's what we're seeing. And everyone in town knows it.
All right. Dave, I guess I just have the awful question of asking you this, but I guess we just need to lay it on your table. Is it your recommendation as our administrator to go with the Parks and Rec administration, or the Parks and Rec recommendation to us, or to go in a different direction that you would like to go in?
Short answer, or would you like me to explain what I'm going to do?
That'd be fine.
Okay, the short answer is yes.
Okay.
And the reason is the way the Parks Board is structured and the way it performs and functions in our, and it hasn't been changed by anyone, and it continues to be this way. It's running the department. It's telling the director what it will do, what the director will do, setting the task list for the director, holding the director accountable. My role as the administrator, as the supervisor of this position, is to discipline this position when somebody gets their nose out of joint over whatever they may or may not have done. And that's been the sum total of my role in Parks and Recreation, and it's because you have some extremely powerful boards appointed. And the same thing occurs in the aging area. I mean, it is run by that board. They are directing everything. They're directing the director. You can say I'm the boss. I am not. I'm here to tell you. I am the disciplinarian. If they get out of line, I write the letter. I put it in their file. I tell them that they did wrong, because boards don't really do that well. Right now, what you have is almost an authority-style board. They do all the budget. They basically run the whole thing, the whole shooting match. I don't run the Parks Department. In the other counties I've been in, I ran the Parks Department. I had a director that worked for me The director came to me and asked me questions. They had a Parks Board, but the Parks Board was strictly advisory. They met once a quarter, and they were told what was going on, and, if we got a chance to get some property over in, on this corner of the county, and we can put in for a Cameron Grant Trust Fund grant, and what do you think we should do? Oh, I think you should do it. Okay, that's what we're going to do. We're going to go to the County Board of Commissioners and say, we'd like to apply for this grant. And the County Board of Commissioners made the decision on the grant, not the Parks Board. Parks Board just said, yeah, that's a good idea. I think we should do that as a citizen board. This board does not function like that. This board is the director, and the director works for this board. And if you change that, then I'll take it over and I'll appoint the director and I'll do everything. But until you do that, this Parks Board is going to be an absolute strong part of any hiring that I do. And if they want Chris Erickson, tell me that you want Chris Erickson, and that's who we'll appoint. Because if I try to appoint somebody other than Chris Erickson with those folks telling me that's what they want, I'm going to have nothing but trouble for the rest of that person's tenure, which probably won't be long. So that's what I think.
Okay, all right. Commissioner Rennie.
I want to know if you think our method is good or the other one is. That's what the hell we want to know.
I didn't have any value judgments on that, did I? I just said that's the way it is. Everybody's characterizing, you're the boss, you're running things. No, I'm not. Not in this case. These boards are very powerful. They run those operations, and they tell that director what to do, and I don't tell that director what to do.
I call the motion.
Okay, I think we've had pretty good discussion on this thing. So we have a motion on the floor to accept the Parks and Rec Commission recommendation and direct it to the administrator. Roll call vote, please.
Could you go over that motion again, please?
The motion is to, the motion was to accept the Parks and Rec Commission's recommendation as presented, and as to delay the hiring until the first of the year. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that'll give an opportunity for an evaluation of the department and an evaluation if staff members are qualified for the position. All right. Roll call vote, please.
Wheelock.
No.
Lathrop.
Yes.
Lemkool.
No.
Max Bauer.
Yes.
Rennie.
Yes.
Thomas.
No.
Inman.
Yes. Motion passes with 3 nays. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make another motion.
Sure.
I'd like to make a motion to eliminate the Park and Recreation Board.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I think it's time that we step up to the plate and take responsibility of our Parks and Recreation departments.
All right, hang on.
100%.
Hang on for a second. The agenda is
Has
purely
Parks and
towards...
Recreation on it, so.
I know, but it purely states that there's just a discussion of an open position. So if you want to make a motion to amend the agenda to have that as a discussion item, because that's a totally different matter.
Mr. Cooney, is that necessary?
I
I
think
would
it-
have to agree with that. I think this is a different topic.
Okay.
And,
My motion is to amend the agenda to put on the Parks and Recreation Board.
Support.
Okay. It's moved and seconded to place on the agenda the discussion of the Parks and Rec Commission Board. So we're going to do a roll call vote on that one.
Lathrop.
I'm sorry. To amend the agenda, no.
No, jeez.
Lemkool.
Yes.
Max Bauer.
No.
Rennie.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Wheelock.
Yes.
Inman.
No. Motion passes.
Then I'll make a motion to eliminate
excuse me.
the Park and Recreation Board.
Point of order.
Yes.
It takes 2/3.
yeah, I think,
Oh.
It did not
I was
pass.
just checking the rules to make sure, but I
Yeah.
think you need a 2/3 vote.
2/3 vote to amend an item, to put, place an
To
item on
amend the agenda. 2/3 of those elected and
You
served.
might be, I believe you're correct.
Well, let's find out for sure.
Yep. Bob, you got our rules there?
Yeah.
What was the final vote, 4-3?
Yeah.
That's what I heard.
So what does it have to be, 5-2?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Has to be under the 2/3 or 1/3 rulings.
Yeah, Rule 11.3, two-thirds or 5 members would be required for final passage or, final
non-agenda
passage or
item.
adoption of a non-agenda item.
All right, so it does take 2/3 of a vote to add something to the agenda. So,
Well, that's for final passage or adoption of a non-agenda item.
okay, what about putting it on?
Mr. Chairman, it may be easier, I will put on the Ways and Means agenda for next week, I will put the discussion.
You want to withdraw your motion?
I will put the
Yep.
discussion of the the future of the Parks and Recreation Board and the authority over the Parks Department to be under the Board of Commissioners and the director under the direction of the county administrator. That discussion will be added to the Ways and Means agenda next
Okay.
week.
All right.
That's fine.
And the motion maker and second agree to withdraw their motion? All right, okay, thank you.
I think I was involved with some of that motion, was I not?
Who's the motion and
Did I
second?
second it or something like that?
Yeah, you did.
You
Amendment?
second the motion,
Okay, with
too.
this thing passed 4-3. We should have known beforehand that it took a 5. I think that vote was improperly taken, in my opinion.
Anyway, being
Yeah,
put on the
okay.
agenda is fine.
The motion
In order
maker,
to amend the
And also, I would like to
agenda,
continue talking about it tonight because we finally got it in front of people. And as we wait week and week and week, we lose touch of these things.
yeah, but here's my opinion on that. I think it's fine to bring up that item for discussion, but when it's not on the agenda,
I agree.
and one of our rules say that we have to have the 2/3 vote,
I wish that it would have been stated
so
prior to the vote.
so the motion maker has withdrawn the motion.
I did.
And really, in retrospect, a matter of this magnitude really needs,
Should be given time.
should be given time and public notice, and not just thrown on the agenda for discussion.
And I don't have a problem with that.
All right. Okay, with that, we will move on to, because that solves item C, we move on to item D, administration. First one is the invoice
Carlson
from
versus Jeter.
Chris Cook.
Yeah, we received invoices from Chris Cook, now totaling $32,500 and some change. And as you recall, this is for the Carlson versus Jeter appellate matter. And I asked Chris, after I received it, I noted that we were kind of given an estimate of about $30,000 to do this, and now we're already over it, and we still haven't gotten in front of the Court of Appeals to actually argue the brief. And so we asked him for an estimate of how much it might take, and I think he came up with pretty close to about $38,000 when all is said and done. I just put this on the agenda because we all talked a while back about how much this would cost. I wanted to make everybody aware of it, and if you want me to do anything to, what kind of correspondence you want me to give to Chris Cook, or if there's anything else you want to do about this, I guess I just wanted to make sure you were all aware of what's going on.
Commissioner Rennie.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I see 25, 30 additional costs over 30. If you read the next paragraph, it gets into another $5,400. It's going to put it near $40,000. If you want to improve, any kind of increase in what's going on here, I want a cap on it. This is, and I will remind everybody, this is a cost being borne by the county. This is not insurance or anything else.
Right.
When we chose to go down this path, we knew that we were putting the county in jeopardy with respect to paying these bills. I want to know where it's going to end now. First of all, how many years has it been going on?
Yeah. Just two items. One is that I do have a recollection that Chris just gave us an estimate of, and I might have a vague memory on it, but it was somewhere between 30 and 35,000 he thought it would cost. But I don't disagree with Commissioner Rennie that I think we should contact Chris and say that, we'd like to have, because the previous relationship with him on this case, he capped, you remember that, we went forward with, on our own, and he capped the additional cost of legal fees to $75,000. He wouldn't, and he reaffirmed that through his firm, and he agreed to do that. So I think it would be a good suggestion if we could go back to Chris and ask him to cap his expense on this case to a number that a board would agree on, and I think 35 would be fine with me, because I just recall that being the number, but that would be my suggestion to the board, but I don't make motions. Commissioner Lundco.
Now, the problem is with that, I think you're going to be a little bit higher. I mean, you're already looking at 5,400 or almost 6,000, probably 6,500 additional cost over this 3,200. So I think if you try and cap it at 35, you're trying to cut the cost too close.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what the right number is, but
Yeah.
I like the idea of capping it.
Yeah, I like the idea of capping, but I'm not sure 35,000 is the number you want to cap it at.
Okay, do you have a recommendation?
But at this point, he suggested that he would reduce his bill by 2,300 or 2,500. And I would say, let's make a motion to pay the $30,000 bill and then to ask for a cap on the balance as to what he's going to think the total dollar is going to be.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Okay. So your motion is to pay $30,000 and request the administrator to get with him and negotiate a cap for the remaining part.
Right.
Okay. So do we have a second on that motion?
Yeah.
Second by Thomas. Discussion. Hearing Commissioner Rennie.
I would just hope that Chris could come in and talk to the administrator and sort it out.
Okay.
How's that?
Yeah.
He's already indicated he might modify it somewhat. Let's
Yeah.
find out what he wants to do, bring it back, and let's decide if we want to do it.
Yep, I'm with
We
it.
owe him the 30.
Okay, Commissioner Wheelock.
Say we owe him the 30.
Let us not forget that this appeal is being filed in the Sixth Circuit Appellate Court in Cincinnati, Ohio. We have no way of controlling, nor does Chris Cook, whether that is going to be one appearance or a dozen appearances. The fact is, the decision was made, this is a case that's been ongoing since 2007. This is a decision that was made by the previous county board, upheld by this county board, that the right thing to do was to defend Sergeant Jetter in this case. The court in Kalamazoo upheld the decision and found him at no fault in this case. But in normal attorney-type activity, an appeal was held or filed to bring this back into court again. And not only did they bring Sergeant Jetter back into this case, I believe, they also named former Sheriff Scott Fewens, Grand Traverse County, the city police department, the state police officer that was in charge of the scene, are all in this appeal again. This is a situation where the legal system has somehow or another failed us, I believe, because the fact is, Sergeant Jetter has already been found innocent of any wrongdoing in this situation. This county board had guts enough to stand up and say, what our officer did was right. The court system upheld his decision that what he did was right, and now the attorneys are playing games, and we, the taxpayers, are paying for it. The fact is, whether there's no way that Chris Cook or anyone else can tell us whether or not this case is going to require one appearance in Ohio or a dozen appearances in Ohio. And I don't know how we can sit here and say we want to cap on it at $5,000 or we want to cap on it at $10,000. We have to have nerve enough to stand up and say we will defend our officer in court until this thing is done. And I think that's the only right thing for us to do.
Okay, Commissioner Rennie.
Should we prevail, do we still pay these legal fees?
Yes.
Okay. Essentially, what you're saying is that, and this is something that could have been long gone, and everyone on this board knows it, to do this, to make this example, was that a good use of taxpayers' money?
Absolutely.
Okay. I don't know if I agree with you, because we don't know what the limit's going to be. You just said that yourself.
I don't care what the limit's going to be.
Okay,
The
well,
fact
okay,
is,
then you
what
should
our
state it that
officer
way.
did was correct, and we will uphold and stand behind the officer's decision.
Okay, so, all right. We have,
I'm not,
Glad to be back, aren't you?
yes. Good meeting to come back to. All right, any other discussion on the motion on the floor?
I totally agree with you, Sonny, is that we're going to the wall with this, but I think that, you know, we can ask for an estimate of the bill and bring it back to the commission. We can always adjust that at any time.
There's a difference between an estimate and a cap, and
Right.
the motion was
Yeah.
made to ask for a cap.
Okay.
Do you want to have,
Let's make it an estimate
right,
rather
the
than a
second,
cap.
and who made that motion?
I did.
And who seconded that?
Wait a minute.
Thomas
I
seconded?
seconded it, but
Thomas seconded?
Instead of doing a cap, I'm saying do an estimate of what they think the cost
Ask
are
Chris to
gonna be.
come in and ask for what he thinks the estimate is for more than 30,000.
part of that motion, the 30,000,
Yes.
Yeah.
To pay the 30 and
I think we
ask,
should separate them.
So, I mean,
Sorry, but I think we should separate them. We owe the 30.
yeah.
You want to separate your motion?
That's more comfortable with you.
Well, if you
You
don't,
want-
I'm going to withdraw my second.
Okay.
All right.
I'll make a
he's
motion.
already withdrawn his second, let him know
So
he's
I'll
withdrawn his second.
redo my motion that says we'll pay the $30,000.
All right, is there a second on
I'll
that?
support that.
All right, Thomas, second. All right, discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes, okay. Second motion.
Second motion is to ask the administration to sit down with Chris Cook to determine an estimate of what they think the cost is going to be to finish this.
Okay, is there a second? Second by Rennie. Discussion. Rennie.
I'd like to make it clear to Commissioner Wheelock that no one is trying to undermine the deputy involved. It has nothing to do with that. What it has to do with is being good stewards of the taxpayers' money and using common sense.
You're wrong.
Say what you want.
Okay.
We did a couple of times.
All right, we have a motion on the floor.
That doesn't
Any
mean
further
it's right.
discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Passes. All right. That takes care of Carlson Jetter Appellate Court invoice. Next is the appointment to the Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee, item number 27. Excuse me, page 27. And I guess I have a question of the of that particular item. Is it the recommendation of this board to appoint one or two commissioners to this committee? Commissioner Lemko?
Just one.
Just one, all right. So do we have a motion on the floor to appoint? Commissioner Maxbauer?
I would move to appoint Dr. Lathrop as our assigned commissioner representative to the Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee.
Okay, is there a second?
Sure.
Okay, seconded by Thomas. Discussion. Commissioner Rennie?
I'm remiss myself in not looking at this at the last board meeting. I'm reading the composition of this committee, and basically what the NIC said coming back is we need to do a little more due diligence with our system as a whole. I think this points to the fact that if we could solve this recidivism riddle, if you will, we wouldn't need a 300-bed facility. I do not understand why on this committee we do not have representative from community mental health when we do all kinds of specialty court stuff with these folks. And also we know there's 25-30% of the folks that are incarcerated have mental wellness issues, as well as other issues, of course. I think if we're going to get after this, we're going to have to get after it at the local level. And I think more input from our specialty courts and our local community mental health might add in this area. And I think that's the kind of thing the NIC was saying we should start looking at. The only thing I can say is I would like another individual added to this committee, and that would be some representative of either the Northern Michigan Regional Entity, which will start the substance use disorder business October 1st, and/or Northern Lakes Community Mental Health, like the CEO or something, to actually look at this system and see what we can do to get some of these folks diverted from having to go to jail. I think it would, in the long term, be well worth the money and the investment, rather than putting $50 million, when you include debt service, into a new jail facility. You can do a hell of a lot with $50 million.
Okay. Well, it's a good point. If we can deal with the motion on the floor, at least for the commissioner's appointment, right at this moment. Any other further discussion on the recommendation? Okay, we have a motion on the floor to appoint Commissioner Lathrop to the Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee for the jail.
Oh, I'd love to.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you'll accept? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
No.
Roll call vote, please.
Lemkool,
Yep.
Max Bauer,
Yes.
Rennie,
No.
Thomas,
Yep.
Wheelock,
Yes.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Inman.
Yes. Motion passes with 1 nay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
can I ask, can the citizen that's from Grand Traverse County be replaced by a mental health person?
I believe that this resolution and the members to the committee was just a recommendation by
Right.
the folks who did the study.
Right.
And so I think it's up to this commission, whoever you want to put on it. It was a recommendation.
All right, Commissioner Wheelock.
I guess the comment that I would make, having spent 13 months on this the last go-around 10 years ago, is the fact that as this committee was seated in previous experience, we took input from mental health people, from multiple judges, multiple prosecutors, on a nightly basis as we met. I would certainly hope that the mental health organization would participate in this process. You know, they don't necessarily have to be a member of that committee. As you know, I'm sure that not all 7 county commissioners are going to be members of that committee, obviously, but I do believe that all of them will do due diligence to participate in the process.
Okay.
And I think that's the important point to make is, you know, one of the things, you know, that's tough for me with this is it's like we've never done this before. We went through this. We spent 13 months as a Blue Ribbon Jail Committee with the same type of makeup of community members that we're seeing recommended today. But yet, as we look at it right now, it's like this is the first time we've ever heard of this. We went through this process. Coming out of that process, we developed 38 beds in the space that was vacated by the sheriff and the city police when they moved out. And through a multitude of different methods of formula, determined that we needed 250 to 300 beds by 2020. You know, but now it's like we've never done this before. We're starting from point zero, which is fine. I don't have any problem with reevaluating the information. But let's acknowledge the diligence that those people made 10 years ago and the time and effort that they put in to come up with the short-term recommendation, which we did. And the long-term recommendation was that we needed 250 to 300 beds by the year 2020. You can read the Blue Ribbon Jail Committee's recommendation as well as I have. I sat through those nights, and there was a lot of heated discussions and multiple ways of looking at all the different issues. We heard from every possible provider of alternative sentencing we could possibly put into the room. And we still came up with the fact that we needed 250 to 300 beds in this community. So here we are, we're at 2015. It takes 5 years to build a county jail. Guess what, folks? We need 250 to 300 beds by 2020.
Okay, Commissioner Lemkool.
Yeah, the only question I have on this whole process is I don't think we put a budget to it. I think part of this is that we have to hire a facilitator to do this. I'm not sure where the money in the budget's going to come from. You know, when you start doing all this,
Yeah.
do we have money there to be able to hire that facilitator and pay per diems for these people to attend meetings? I'd like to continue going forward, but we need to talk about this in our budget as to where it's going to go.
I'd like to, All right, last time we did this process, we did have a facilitator. Was it Jim Weising that did, who did the facilitating last time? Recall? Was it Jim, or no?
I don't think so.
Okay, any event,
I just think we need to look at that.
I don't honestly believe that we had a
Dennis.
facilitator for the committee.
Lieber.
We were fortunate, we had a strong chairman and 2 vice chairmen
Yeah.
that facilitated the meetings. We did have Dennis Lieber acted as a consultant on the process. I believe you had opportunity to meet him when you were in
Sure did.
Colorado last
Yes.
year.
Great guy.
Dennis probably has more knowledge about the Grand Traverse County Jail than any expert that we could bring from anywhere. He's
I don't
been here-
disagree.
He's been here multiple times, and he's been through the process multiple times.
well, what's the contingency in the board's budget this year left, Dean?
100,000.
All right, I think we got that resolved at that number. Just a quick question before I go to Commissioner Lathrop. On the board packet, there's 2 recommendations. One is to assign a commissioner representative to the Criminal Justice Court and Committee, and then 2 is to assign an ad hoc committee to review citizens' applications. So, Sonny, did we not do that previously?
No, we did.
We did? I thought we did, so we're all set with that second item.
Well, we haven't done it this time. We
Okay.
have not done it for this time. We did 10 years ago.
Oh, I'm saying, okay.
We haven't done it this time.
Right.
Okay, so we need to set up an ad hoc committee to review citizens' appointments.
Right.
All right, who would like to volunteer for that? Commissioner Wheelock, Commissioner Lathrop? Anyone else? Third,
I'll be
Commissioner
glad
Lemko. Okay. Okay. We have a motion on the floor to accept that recommendation.
I would move to accept Commissioner Wheelock, Dr. Lathrop, and Commissioner Lemkool as members of the Citizen Application Review Ad Hoc Committee.
Okay, any discussion?
Do we need a second?
Yes, Commissioner Rennie?
We got a second, and then
Sure.
discussion? I had no
Discussion on the
discussion, I was
motion.
seconding it.
Any discussion on the motion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Oops. All right, there goes.
Now you got your old name tag all excited.
Well, I suggested we turn Dan's around a little while ago so we'd know who.
Do I know who I am?
was the moment when
Yes,
started
right.
asking.
I shouldn't have said here when you call, I'm not here.
Really?
All right,
I do have a
yes, go ahead.
comment. Actually, I do agree with Sonny on reviewing what the Blue Ribbon Committee did. In fact, that whole folder is sitting on the consultation table in Dave's office. I've asked her to put it there so I can go look at it, and I haven't got a chance to do that yet. I hope the new committee reviews all that work, because a lot of work went into it. And by the way, when the NIC was here, they recommended that we look at that good work that was done and build on it. So I think that that is true. One of the things, too, that the NIC said, if we could get a judge to chair this committee, it has so much more meaning to the community. So that might be an important aspect to look at. And I also think we need to get Dennis back on board. He was excellent at NIC, and he knows this county very well. So.
All right. I'll go to Commissioner Rennie in a second. To address the comment by Commissioner Lemkool, would it be satisfactory to the board to place on the agenda at Ways and Means the discussion of the cost, if we're going to move forward with a facilitator for this committee, and the approximate cost, and whether we're going to pay a per diem to the citizens for meeting during this process? Can we put that on the Ways and Means Committee? As chair, as Sonny's chair.
Okay, so we're going to add Justice Committee budget.
Yes.
I don't know if we'll have opportunity to get that ready to, those packets are going to go out in a day and a half. Whether or not I can get that on there, you may get a verbal update.
Okay.
I'm sure you're not going to see a draft budget in your packet.
Okay. All right.
Is that
If
safe
it's,
assessment, Dave?
Yeah.
yeah.
It's fine.
And if necessary, you can put it as a new item on the board meeting.
Well, we can put it on the agenda, but I'm pretty sure that you're not going to see a draft budget
Right.
in the packet that's
No.
distributed on Friday.
No, we just got to have a discussion about,
Right.
the framework of how we want to do this thing. Okay, Commissioner Rennie.
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Lathrop on putting a judge or something in charge of this so we get some notoriety and we get some attention. But I truly believe this committee should be expanded to include community mental health people at an upper level because they encompass 25% to 30% of the inmate population here in our local jail. I don't think participation, as Mr. Wheelock indicated, is enough. We should be there with someone of substance, a Dave Stevenson, a Greg Paffhouse, someone that can put some attention on what we can do to remove the burden of a new county off the backs of the taxpayers of this county.
Okay.
Bob, the recommended membership isn't necessarily all-inclusive, correct?
Correct.
That was what was recommended in the study.
Right.
It was one of the recommendations,
But
who would be on there. But no, it's a recommendation only. It's
Yeah, and we can change that.
So we have the opportunity.
We have an opportunity to change that
As the
recommendation.
ad hoc committee reviews the applications, or as the board approves the appointments, we have the opportunity to appoint who we choose to that committee.
And the city commission also has to appointee to this.
Yeah.
I guess my only point is that the community mental health rep should be listed as a member, an equal member of this committee.
Okay, we'll take that.
Give an equal billing, however you want to say it.
Make a
Okay.
motion.
I would make that motion.
Okay.
And I'm trying to.
Well,
All right.
we haven't finalized the who will sit on this committee yet, correct?
Oh, only the county commissioner designate.
Right.
Right.
So when we finalize the committee, that will be the opportunity by which to finalize all the membership of the committee.
I believe the ad hoc committee is for the citizen participation, isn't it? Is that correct?
Right, citizen.
Yeah.
that's
Okay,
only-
this is not a citizen. This is a
Right.
community
Right.
mental health executive. The ad hoc committee is to vet the citizens who might want to serve on this committee. That would not be the community mental health guy. Therefore, I would like to make a motion that we include in this committee a representative from community mental health, and I'm not sure at what level, but.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Support.
Support. Moved by Rennie, seconded by Wheelock. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, that takes care of that item. Now we move on to the administrator's report. Dave, you want to highlight anything on the administrator's report?
Just wanted to note that
You bring it up. I'm sorry.
we've gotten some information from the Corps of Engineers that the EPA submitted voluminous comments at the, we had a meeting back in August with the Corps of Engineers on the Boardman Dams project. The EPA wants lots more information. It's going to set us back from getting our finding of no significant impact, at least a couple months, for the Corps to put together the additional information to get to the EPA. So just wanted to note that. I'm not sure, I haven't really talked with URS and how that would impact project schedule, if any, if at all. But, it's going to be a couple months longer before we find out whether the Corps is going to be involved in this project or not, or whether we're going to have the opportunity to be involved with the Corps. I wanted to note that the...
Dave, I think it's important to note that that's for the dam removal, not for the bridge.
Correct. Yeah, the bridge is not part of the Corps' project.
Right.
That is totally our project. You've all received some funding information from me, but nothing's been officially announced by the funders, so I guess we'll wait on that to announce anything on that. I think there's not much else to talk about this week. I'm just going to, just for the sake of time, if you have any questions on the report, I'll be happy to answer.
All right, thank you, Dave. We will now move on to unfinished business, which there is none. We have new business, and we added Wendy. Would you come up, you have the floor. yourself introduced for the public? Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I should have spoken during the first public comment, I think.
Yes.
You've gotten out of
I got
here.
it on at 5 o'clock today, so. Wendy Truitt, Health Officer for Health Department and Medical Examiner's Office. I'm here just to give a verbal update to you. As I'm sure you're kind of wondering what's going on. As you all know, Dr. Houghton passed away end of August after a 6-month illness. And just wanted you to know that right now the Medical Examiner's Office it's stable. We do have Dr. Flisson as the Chief Deputy Medical Examiner and the forensic investigator who supports that position. The weekend that he passed was the busiest weekend, holiday weekend, Labor Day they've ever had. Just kind of goes to show that this office and that job is 24/7, 365 days a year. They had 6 ME cases in 4 days, 5 which had to go to forensic autopsy. So they were very, very busy. They didn't even have time to grieve, basically, so just still doing the job in Dr. Houghton's honor. We are in transition, however. As you're probably aware, he was the medical examiner for 3 counties, all independently through his own private practice structure. So right now, there's no real support structure there for some of the kind of administrative things like getting staff paid, which is really important for these positions. So Dean and I have been working with the accountant for Doc's estate so that we can, at least for Grand Traverse County, get people paid directly after, basically starting September 1st. And making sure that happens for at least the next 45 days until we come up with something more permanent. Dave and Dean and I did sit down with the administrators from Benzie-Leelanau County last week just to start a discussion to see if there's interest at this point in maybe formalizing a tri-county medical examiner's office, which would make sense. And they all seemed initially to be in approval of the idea. As you know, we have to go to 3 different commission boards now, so a lot can happen there. So tomorrow I'm actually meeting with Benzie County commissioners and the stakeholders for that office, so EMS, law enforcement, funeral home directors, tomorrow, and then Tuesday night, Dr. Fliss and I will be going to the Leelanau County Administrator, our commissioners meeting, and just to see if they are interested in us actually pursuing, looking at that more seriously. So I'll report back next week on how those meetings went, but I just wanted you all know this is kind of what's happening right now. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Questions? Commissioner Wheelock.
I guess the only comment that I would make is I would certainly hope we were able to put together a regional medical examiner position in our community. Unlike a lot of people, I don't find Benzie County line to be a brick wall since it's 4 miles from my house, or actually it's 2.5 miles from my house. So, but the fact is that this Northwestern Michigan's been very fortunate for a long time. Dr. Houghton has served Grand Traverse, Leelanau, and Benzie County in this position for probably 25 years.
Well, Leelanau was 41 years, and
41 years in Leelanau County.
we were 14, and Benzie's 12.
I can remember
16.
making ambulance calls when Dr. Tang was still the medical examiner, but it's been a long time ago. So, the service to Northwestern Michigan by Dr. Houghton certainly needs to be noted, and it was a commitment that will truly be missed. And no matter how we look at it, whether it be Grand Traverse County trying to do it on our own, or if we could do it regionally, it's still going to be a change. And we just need to understand that there's going to be some growing pains that go with that change. Dr. Houghton had his way of doing things, and it's going to be hard for us to reproduce that.
Man, you're right.
Yep. I will say he truly loved that job, really did.
He was committed to the job.
Commissioner Rennie.
I did do some reading on what you had sent out on his resume. I was astounded by that guy's life mission. I mean,
So was I.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Our hats are off to his service, all of us.
Yeah, just a reminder, his services are actually this coming weekend. On Saturday, there's visitation at Reynolds Yonkoff from 6 to 9, and on Sunday at 2 o'clock. There'll be a, I'm guessing, very large funeral out at Glen Lake High School.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for waiting. Okay, there is no other new business. Is there a second public comment?
Oh, shit. We got a 3-minute limit here.
Actually, I'm here to thank you, Commissioner Rennie, Lisa Kropa, President of County Parks. I'm here to say I support dissolving the Parks Board. You reached out to the public, and you got the opinion, and you heard that they don't want us. We shouldn't be here. Our job, your job, is to represent the people. So any department in the county that has a board to counteract it, it's to get the people's voice in. The Board of Commissioners is going to take our place. I say go for it. Wouldn't have said it 3 months ago, wouldn't have said it 6 months ago or a year ago, but I say it now because we have an incredibly competent person working as our staff member in Parks. We haven't had one. She will listen, she will work. This board, I trust the fiscal oversight of this board. I really feel that our job in Parks has been to babysit what's been going on in that department, which has been ridiculous. You guys will carry on the torch that we kept up through a lot of public criticism. And we never gave up, and I am proud of every member on that board. And if you choose that the people of this county are served better by your oversight, I trust that. And I trust Christine Erickson, and the reason we micromanaged the job description was because the job description negates her to be allowed to apply for it. So before you comment on things like that, reach out and ask someone on that board why we did that. It requires a bachelor's degree in Parks and Rec. Christine doesn't have one. It requires a 2 to 3 year job experience managing Parks and Rec. Christine does not have it. It requires a certified Parks and Rec certification. Christine does not have one. After our meeting, when you were seeking out and trying to comment to certain members of our board, the rest of us were standing over here with Attorney Doran trying to figure out how we could get her to that certification. You're speaking on things you don't know about, but ultimately we're saying the same thing, that people should be served the best in this county. I will happily step down and stand over anything to anyone. If, Mr. Bennett, if you think you can take on the extra workload, great. If this board wants to take on the extra workload, great. You obviously spoke to a lot of people. You said the public wants this. I trust that you took a widespread survey of people all across the county and you know what you're saying, or you wouldn't have said it. You wouldn't sit here and lie to us. So if that's the truth and that's what the public wants, do it. Do it. I don't appreciate the rude comments when I am chairing a meeting or when I come up to public comment in this. It's inappropriate to the chair of this, and it was inappropriate to the chair of me.
That stuff goes both ways. Understand that? That goes both ways. And I'm going to tell you another thing.
No, this is...
And this is what we're going on. No, I have a right to respond to that.
This is public comment.
That I want to make, I'm going to still respond to that.
It was disrespectful to our board and upset several members. It upset our staff person, who we are trying to keep here. She has done a great job. Please, please support Christine Erickson as our new Parks Director. Please allow whatever changes need to be made to the job description. And by all means, dissolve our board if that is what the public wants. But just please promise us that you'll carry on all the work that we've done. Despite what you see or read the drama in the papers, there is 10 very dedicated people that have given their time, a lot of their time, especially in the last 2 months, to make sure that the department kept running when most people didn't even realize we were missing a director. I got 27 seconds.
Beautiful.
I'm watching the timer, Chairman.
Good, okay.
If it's up to the administrator and he says yes, and it's up to your board, I support all of you. Do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I just
make
learn
a
to have a
comment,
little timer?
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Good. Anyone else from the public?
Bob Johnson, 2867 Voice Road, Kingsley. I would like to speak to what the Parks Board did last year. They prevented a PR nightmare of which the current, or the past director, who should have been fired in my opinion, instead of resigned, but he underhandedly would have allowed American Legion Baseball to have been put in a position where the fields would not have been available to us this past year. He had a resolution passed that required a deposit and reserving of the fields in October, which sounds normal, doesn't sound like that bad a business, except he didn't notify the people it affected. Thankfully, one of the board members notified American Legion of that, or else we literally would not have been on the fields, because his true method or reason to do that was to get us off the fields. And like I said, I would have loved to see him fired, and I think the Parks Board had to micromanage him because he had his own agenda. So I agree with Alyssa that, you know, if you feel like it's not needed, that's fine. But I think that they were doing what they were doing because they had to at the time. There is a lot to be said for if you are a director reporting to 10 people versus 1. You know, it's a lot easier to have one boss than 10. So throw that into the mix too. So great meeting. It's actually good to see the energy in this room tonight. So thank you.
Any other public comment? Come on up.
Andy Merrick, 2875 East Railroad Avenue, Interlochen, Michigan. I'm not going to talk about Parks and Rec. I think it's been said. What I do want to talk about is the support for Officer Jeter, or Sergeant Jeter. I think the previous board made the right decision. This board made the right decision. I hope you continue to make the right decision to stand behind your officers that do the right thing. It is important that they know that the county board stands behind them. I'm a taxpayer. Use my money wisely. Support your officers who do the right thing. If they do the wrong thing, discipline them appropriately. But you need to stand behind Sergeant Jeter all the way to the end, and I fully support the board supporting Officer Jeter. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
David Grams, 1735 East Front. I also sit on the Parks and Rec. So I'm furiously over typing my notes on all things I want to say. I think I've probably erased it several times. A couple points, I'll try to be brief. Number one is the reason I voted for the motion to delay hiring the director was it seemed to be a compelling argument at the time that there was some chance that the position would be eliminated anyways. That's basically the argument went, why would we hire somebody if we're going to turn around and get rid of the position a few months later? I personally would like to see an experienced person that has the educational background, the vision in that position, and that is in no way, shape, or form to take away for the fine job that Christine has done. I think everybody agrees that she's doing a great job. I'm just concerned that her wonderful ability to manage these crises and deal with less staff than she probably needs and mow the lawns and see that all these other things get taken care of, that we'll look down the road 5 years from now and maybe we have less of a park system than what we could have because we don't have somebody with that kind of background. I would like to suggest that if you do ultimately dissolve the Parks and Rec, you don't dissolve the Parks and Rec Board, that there needs to be clarification on what the role is of the Parks and Rec Board. Because I've been incredibly frustrated by this pendulum of strong personalities and what appears to me to be micromanagement. I'm not running for office. I'm a citizen. I do this because I care about our parks, and I have 3 kids that use them. And often it seems like people have agendas, and I'm left wondering, why are we spending a half an hour looking at a line item for $2,000 when there's bigger issues, in my opinion? And why are we rewriting the qualifications for a role that, in my mind, Dave Benda should be deciding? I looked at us as an advisory role, and it just never seemed to. Every meeting, I kind of scratch my head, and I think perhaps I was one of the only ones that was wondering what was going on. But I just look for clarification if you maintain the Parks and Rec Board, so that I know what my job is and what authority I have and how I'm going to interact with Dave and the rest of the commission. And I really did appreciate your candid comments because I thought that they were spot on for what it's worth. That's my opinion. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else for public comment? Okay, we will close public comment. We will move on to commissioner committee reports. Any commissioner committee reports? Commissioner Wheelock.
Last night at Long Lake Township's meeting, we had some rather extensive discussion about the proposed 911 surcharge numbers.
And how did that go?
In all honesty, not bad. I don't think they understood how much general fund money was being subsidized into 911, and the fact that even though we're spending, for practical purposes, $750,000 a year subsidizing 911, we have no money for infrastructure improvements, and that the surcharge increase will give us both. So, you know, it took a little bit to explain through it, but I think all in all, you know, we had pretty frank discussions. You know, a dollar seems like a lot of money to raise the surcharge, but when you think about it, it's $12 a year. You know, it's not a ton of money for any single individual, but the fact that it frees up $750,000 of county general fund money, plus provides us an opportunity to have some infrastructure improvements and money set aside for those, it became easier to understand, but it did take a little explaining.
Okay. Commissioner Rennie.
Was at several local unit meetings myself, discussed this issue. I would say support for it is mixed at best.
Okay. Any other commissioner reports? Hearing none, we will go to notices and announcements. Anything on that? Anything?
Yeah,
Commissioner
real
Rennie?
quick. I had requested Chris print out the county commission assessment for the Northern Lakes Community Mental Health. I would request again that we have 100% compliance. We did not last year.
Pass mine down to Commissioner Rennie, will you?
It does not look good when we raise Cain about sending $675,000 over there and then don't answer the
There you go.
the assessment.
Thank you for doing that. I wouldn't have done it without
I know you wouldn't have.
Yeah, thank you.
You think, Chris?
All right. Anything else under notices and announcements? Seeing none, we have a closed session. And that is
To
what?
discuss labor negotiations.
All right. So we need a motion on the floor with a description of the closed session.
Mr. Chairman, I would move we go into closed session for the purpose of discussing labor negotiations. I am assuming that no decision will be made coming out of that closed session. Is that
That's correct.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Thomas. Roll call vote, please.
Max Bauer.
Yes.
Rennie.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yep.
Wheelock.
Yes, ma'am.
Lathrop.
Yes.
Lemcool.
Yes.
Inman.
Yes. All right.
Hey, you woke up.
We're going to closed session and we'll return and then adjourn the meeting.
We will return to adjourns.
You gonna wheel the? Yeah. Okay.